Good morning to everybody here. So we are going to continue with our teaching on transforming suffering and happiness. Up until now, we have looked at, or we are currently looking at, the qualities or the positive aspects of suffering. Yesterday, we covered the first three, and we are now going to talk about the fourth positive aspect.
나초 지바트 강레지나 티니 지바트는 티니 소소 랑가토라 등을 용나 디 등을도 티 용이 김성 강레지나 소소 랑가타 나마 머기와 시바타 딘지가 레가 톱거니 종거래 데이나 등을도 용이 값스 티니 레티 말 잔조래 데이나 랑가 득파 머기와 잔조래 삼니다 딘지 삼콘 도지 소소라 등을 용이 값스 아오타 등을 용나 등을데라 티니 나랑 머기와 나마스바 탐치 잔조레 쫑고 마레 삼니 디고 고니 가와 곰고도스.
So this fourth positive aspect of suffering is using suffering to purify harmful actions. So this entails us appreciating that when suffering takes place or arises, that the reason for this is unvirtuous activities or acts that we have done in the past. And it's a result of this negative karma that has led to our current suffering. Now we have the opportunity to go about purifying it. So we should think that when suffering comes upon us, well, I can use this instance of suffering to purify my past negative karma, and on this basis have a like for the suffering. Does this mean then that all of the various kinds of suffering that happen in our lives, whether great or small, are all the result of our past negative karma? Well, this is not necessarily the case. Different kinds of suffering have their own causes and conditions. However, generally we consider larger forms of suffering in our life to be the result of negative karma in past lives. So on the one hand, the causes for our suffering are firstly our past karma, and then secondly the various causes and conditions that come together in our present lives.
Tenito da musitini kapar korang changa su lakpa zona zon tbiaga kapar to tambo go rezi chitare gikin chitare ganya
Chizateni gyukin tambodi ngatso deni kaba gogorwa.
The gore shitantini kapar kana ganya na gikin mambo gore tinane chitini to dam churcha korang gores.
So if we take the example of listening to somebody speaking in a telephone, there are different causes and conditions that need to be in place for us to be able to do this. The first of these is the telephone itself.
Teni nga so muktinim thoya mepaga teni kapargatinim chunda te yang ta gores.
But aside from the actual phone that we can see with our own two eyes, we also need the phone signal, which is not able to be perceived by our eyes.
Teni tiniki nani chigmena teni ngaso janyan thap ko mares.
Without either of these two things, the actual phone and the imperceptible phone signal, we wouldn't be able to listen to the sound.
Teni tehnika te yo tsati teni ngaso tazo teni janyan thap ko wazi nawa nala.
So it's only when they both come together that we are actually able to listen to the phone or listen to someone speaking in it.
Teni te dang japore ngaso chowa nala teni dewa yona dungor yona tela teni ngaso mukum thongya ga teni giskin dang teni mukum mamthong wi giskin mamboz yorez.
And it's the same with various kinds of happiness and suffering that crop up in our lives. There are causes and conditions that we can see with our own eyes and causes and conditions that we can't.
Teni yena ngaso me mamboz ka ta ngaso koranga mukum thongya ga teni giskin te ma to pa jamba yo mare samni teni samgo yorez.
But there are some people who think that the only causes and conditions are the ones that they can see with their eyes, and beyond these, they don't think there are any others. But it's not as simple as that. There are many contributing causes and conditions.
Teni te dang rapo pe na nga tsu teni lok la sang lok tang da nga tsu teni lok chi na teni ngu su nga tsu ndan thong wi teni lok tang lok teni te lok do da so la teni wo te yong de zi ngu sum thong a.
Another example would be the light, the ceiling light. When we look at it, we see the light itself and the light bulb, and think these are the things that allow us to see the light.
Yena nga tsu teni lok ni sher tok chi bola tes chi bola teni lok ngo du yong thap go ya mares.
However, purely in reliance on the light bulb, we wouldn't be able to, the light wouldn't be emitted or able to be emitted.
Teni nga tsu tarang bo la yo pi teni te lok khang ga na ni teni lok te ser yong go ndus. Fa dian chang.
La se. In addition to this, we need the power or the electricity to be supplied from a distant power generation station.
Teni nga tsu nyuk muk riksa na yo pi teni lok her tok ndada. Teni gyang rambo na yo pi teni lok khang te ni ten zom ni teni nga tsu lok to yong go yores.
So it's only by having the light bulb that is very proximate to us and the distant supply of electricity, when these two come together, that we are able to have a functioning light.
Teni te dang rapo teni nga tsu sem ga nang la ina lipo go thola ina dungmur yong na teni chikti nga tsu teni chowa ga nang la so so rang ga pe nam choste ni na ra teni korla teni mandrik pa teni yore teni gestion chik te res.
When we consider suffering of the mind and suffering of the body, there are many different causes and conditions too. One of these is our overall state of health or hygiene.
Teni nipa ta teni gyangrambo zne ta ga teni nga so le ga teni ta pe na kewa kongma yan lo jap chak lo tong chak teni mambo zla nga so le teni sa yo pi ti nipa ta ta yong go yore ti nika la teni dungmer njong go yores.
And a more remote factor is our past karma, whether karma accumulated in a past life or 100 years ago or 1,000 years ago, the power or the force generated by this karma. It's only when both of these things come together, our past karma and our current situation of health, that we have or experience different kinds of suffering. Both of these factors need to come together. If one of them is missing, then we wouldn't experience suffering. So when we do experience suffering, we should think, I'm going to use this suffering to purify my past karma. And now we come to point 5.
갑주 용거래지 게와라 셈거나라 갑보다 쪼보든지 용거래지
So when suffering comes upon us, we should use this as a chance to be very joyous about doing positive or virtuous action.
대가래즈나테니다 등물 리보 돌아용나 야나 셈거 돌아용나 소소라 냠린 약보 게와 약보 메나 아니다 등물제야테 테니다 머스치게 온도그 말에 못 탐치 볼라테리 까블레 카보 테니 용거레지 냠린 다 게와 약보 메나
The reason for this is that when suffering takes place, whether it's physical or mental suffering, if we are not sound practitioners or do not soundly cultivate virtue, then the experience of suffering is very difficult.
Teni ngaso nyamlin la tega teni nyamlin jipi kapsu teni dungmur yena teni dungmur te teni dungmur chimbo meba tang teni dungmur la teni gawa teni 용탑 거래지 대 용탑바데 코랑랑 하고 용 거래지 디 값스
디 양자수나 직접바 칸보라
게와티니 드피 값스 게와티니 드므나티니 다 냠린 게와라 테니 티니 등머 메바테 등머 사마티니 데와 자오티니 렌도와테 티니 코랑 냠린 그 고니 하고 요래지 디 값스
If one is a practitioner, then through practice, one is able, when suffering takes place, to convert it into happiness. And it's through practice that one understands this.
Teni dumur to teni gewa nyamlin la teni dumur te teni to ta dumur mepa teni gawa teni yemba te hako yondi teni gewa la ga yongore pena nga so nat navi kapse teni man thona ti man la to teni te sosorang na te changro wa te shi yondi teni man te la lakpo ga yongo wa te dang ra poreze.
So in knowing then that positive action, engaging in positive action is able to both reduce suffering and generate happiness, then one comes to like suffering. It's like medicine, again, that is able to cure an illness or cure our illness. In knowing that the medicine is able to cure our illness, we naturally come to like the medicine.
Bernatini 당아서 리보고 돌아 심고 돌아 등을 딘지 용이 값스 되니 냠린 맹큰 그 뭐지나 되니 리보라 있나 제 심고 돌아 등을 오나 디 등을 띠더니 거랑라테 식긴 침보테 거랑건 소화라 식긴 테 되니 거랑건 레가라 식긴 테 되니 까블리 캄보 멍보 용 거래.
For a person who doesn't engage in practice, a non-practitioner, then suffering when it arises, whether it be physical or of the mind, has a great detrimental impact on their life in general, on their work lives, etc., and in general brings them a great deal of difficulty.
Tani daring achu nyamlin te yopi jimsenji tani dungmurina tani dungmur ka sosola shikin te matpa soso on soala yang shikin matib tani soso leka la yang tani shikin matib tani soso simkhum gana la yang shikin matib ni tani yakbo yongya gang tini tani te nipare zina te gewa nipare soso nyamling ga nipare tani te ha ko wi kaps tani soso gewa la lapar gabo yongres.
However, through practice, it's through our practice that it is possible for suffering not to cause us detrimental impact, whether on our working lives or our lives in general or our overall state of psychological well-being. The reason for this is the power of virtue or of doing positive acts. And because it is through the practice of through it is the virtue that is generated by our practice which carries the power for suffering not to detrimentally impact in these ways. So on this basis, we develop a liking for doing positive acts.
Teni tindri indi dumur te yona teni dumur te ngasola kalmapshi kereze kalmapshi ni teni gewa dripala teni thabartam bapashia o tindri indi teni dumurti teni ngasola gewa dripala teni kalmatongores.
So for this reason, suffering gives us encouragement. It gives us the encouragement to practice and do positive acts.
Teni shirtanga so muzgla teni samlo tana chua nala teni kavle ta dungur ta teni chijang meni dewa ta teni yena tenga so samala gabu yogo yoreze matsama teni tela gagare tela yenhun shegoreze.
Generally speaking, everyone very much likes and admires, appreciates a life that is free from difficulty and suffering and full of happiness.
Teni soso ranga teni soa nala kable me dungur me ne teni te soa ke bo teni zganga teni ta ne thamna sambate ngaso mi chama ga teni jindote chama ga teni ta yemun chama ga rewa reze.
And to abide happily in a life without difficulty or mishap is the hope or aspiration of everyone.
Teni ngaso tichu thongthong ga nala tana teni te reze ta ngaso demo che poyona te gang doze tichu thongthong nigyang thongthong la tana.
If we are looking at things from a short-term perspective, then yes, we would say it is preferable that we have a life where no suffering exists.
Teni te tse nigyang rambun ra otana teni ngaso soa na la kable jiang me pa te yakpo yimbi ngipa yo mareze.
However, if we take a more long-term perspective, then a life with no difficulty whatsoever is not necessarily preferable.
Teni yakpo yinda mayinti teni soso rang la nyamling yo me la thung ro re.
Whether or not such a life would be considered positive or negative or preferable or less preferable depends on whether one has a foundation in practice.
Teni karti nyamling yakpo mena ta ngatsun soa na la teni demo che bonda o te zi yongna teni soa na la yopi demo che po tela jin tela chagne teni ngaso o ta tina la par ngong khorne.
If someone doesn't have a foundation in practice, then a life of pure happiness would lead them to become extremely attached to this kind of lifestyle, and they would become very confused by this lifestyle or life of pure happiness.
Ti kaptela se teni kaptela teni soso teni ta chorwa kipun rao o chorwa dewa rao teni yungu reta yena teni ta ti chorwa dewa tela yenni tashipo thola nding dike ma to teni soso rang yargi teni ndrovala teni no paren res.
So even though at that very moment the person in question is living a very happy and nice life, their attachment to this happy life leads them not to progress in themselves, and so in this way can be considered to harm them.
Teni gewa drbyata teso yang teni nyamli menken zena teni soso choa thola demo ki potenti yin charti teni tarang tang ne gewa drgo ndu sambawo teni samlo ti jindo res.
And so it's for this reason that for someone who is not a practitioner, that such a lifestyle leads them to forget about the need or to forget engaging in positive action.
Ta tindi indi nga chun choa na la tindi dumur te yona tini te ta dugbore chane phar tini gaya lo to. So
So the thought that a bit of suffering in life is undesirable, and therefore a desire to resist suffering, is a way of thinking that ultimately is harmful to us.
Teni dingmer chongzut drabo tinti yongna ngaso kharsang ya shasong ta ngaso chuwa nangla dingmer hale pa chimbo yongna ta ngaso tarta teni tarong nyamling ga thola teni yarji yong matsirbi kapsi na teni te kamore te la jarka thogona kamore yena chuwa nangla dingmer te chongchong rawo teni chongzut yona te nguni tan jangrang bola samlo ta na yakbo reze.
So as we said yesterday, in terms of suffering, well, very large or serious forms of suffering, if our practice has not yet been made extremely firm, then this is rather difficult for us to cope with. It's rather difficult for us to achieve victory in respect of this kind of suffering. However, in terms of small forms of suffering, then taking a long-term perspective, they are ultimately good for us.
Teni dingmer tang kanger o teso la teni nga so mo la teni to kelma thimne yarji ro re ma to pa dingmer la teni mar jirdig lan ro te nyong ro re nyamling yona tele kyang yarji ro re.
Suffering and hardship, in fact, give us encouragement. They impel us to progress. It's not the case that they lead us to decline. And particularly for practitioners, suffering and hardship leads to progress.
Teni ti thola nga so teni ta dingmer yona teni ngarang ga gewa drpala teni ta bapa chegre te na nga dingmer te yona yak bore samni teni chini tanglim she go re.
So in this way, then, when suffering takes place, we need to think to ourselves, I will be diligent in my practice of positive actions, and on this basis accept the suffering.
Teni te ngabati rindu ngabati teri teni trigparis.
So that's the fifth positive aspect, and now we move on to the sixth. This sixth point is extremely important. And the reason for this is that when suffering takes place, it is we need to use this suffering in order to cultivate compassion for other beings. So through suffering comes compassion, but through suffering also comes anger. Whether suffering generates compassion or anger depends on our practice. For a person who is not a practitioner, then when suffering comes upon them, they think, oh, others have been unfair, they've treated me poorly, and this has given rise to my suffering. My suffering is connected to others, and on this basis feel very angry.
ngarang la tini shusuk di ngarang la yakbo che gmad yana ngarang ka phama ngarang la yakbo che gmad yana ngarang ka trobo yakbo che gmad samni suso ger kana la sem kana la mahkepa mambo yong gore ji chungsani.
If we look at it on a individual perspective, a small-scale perspective, we can also see that suffering in people's minds causes anger. They often regard society as having been unfair to them, their parents as having mistreated them, their friends as not being good to them. And in this way, suffering leads to a lot of individual unhappiness.
Teni chesani teni da zambolang ka thola nyokta mambo yon jite soyo tendi samlola teni yung yoris.
And on a large scale, a global scale, we can see all the various troubles that take place.
Tendi indi ngaso dumriyona yinjig manjig tini to nyarji chegre tase maris dumriyona susorala dumriyon kaps nyarji chengi payo maris.
So we're not saying that when suffering takes place, it automatically gives rise to compassion.
Teni countries yoris na nyamling yona teni nyarji yo kaps teni
What is being said is that if we practice, then suffering is able to generate compassion. So when suffering takes place, whether it be suffering of the body or of the mind, it is possible to use this suffering to generate compassion for others. And it's through this compassion that we are able to improve ourselves.
Tanga so rang la thola dumur maybe caps teni mi jamba so dumur la samlo mambo tanga yo mares te samlo motang wi jimsenji teni mojanam la dumur country yote mambo te hako mares so rang la dumur mena.
Yesterday we said how we talked about how when we have not had experience of a particular kind of suffering, that we don't think about it, we don't give thought to it. And the reason that we don't understand or that we don't do this is because we don't know what it is like, this kind of suffering that others are experiencing.
Penanga so tini tongchir ka nangla tini lam khala yandro mandro yana langkala yandro mandro Tendi chini tini mambo tini tagan thongi kapsu ti kapsu tini ngaso musola tini ta navi dumur country yo chindi yen te ngaso tini ta shigi yo mareze.
When we're just going about our lives, traveling back and forth along the roads in the city, we see many people, but at this point we don't understand or have insight into the suffering that sick people undergo.
Zeatin the Nizredu, Sambanda, Tini Sosola, Semganala, Sorwa, the Nirtan Zabu, or Tini Yongan Wazi.
However, if we were to go to a hospital, we would we would gain the impression that, everyone here is sick. They are all patients. And we would then be able to understand that their suffering is of this kind or is of this nature. And in this way, we would gain a feeling of their suffering that is very deep.
Suso Rangatola tini nat in the Yonati Telejang or Tan nat in the Yona Dugmer Chimborendu Samba the Hako Gores.
And when one becomes sick oneself, then one understands even more acutely what it's like to be sick and to undergo the suffering of illness.
Then it comes in Soso Rangatini Dumur Yona, Tini Tangarala Dumur the Tini. Mena Sambandao Tenita Samlo Tenditani Yungores, the Musatan saying that in Naran Dumur the Mena, Sambi Samlo Yungores.
But at times like this, the wish that, I wish this suffering weren't happening, I wish I didn't have it, arises. It arises for everyone.
Teni Yamlin Tits Shinking Mosina, Teniti Caps a Koranga Samlo Tangari, or Tangarala, 등물 닌디 용이 값은 나랑 등물 때 메나 삼니 딘디 삼근도 와지 딘디 인디 딘이 미 참마씩 바리지 미 참마가 딘디 삼거요래 무스던 세나 딘이 소소랑 거 돌아 등물 용이 값스 나랑 그 등물인데 메나 딘이 삼근 마토 바 직경요 말에 삼니 이 거랑 딘디 삼로 탄 거래지 냠니 용케 있나.
But for a practitioner, when they begin to give rise to this thought of wishing that they weren't suffering, then they give it a little bit more thought and realize that everyone thinks in exactly the same way. Where everyone, when they are sick or suffering, wishes that they weren't suffering. There is no one who doesn't, and so they are able to think in this way.
Then ngarang tini dumur yong kapse tini ta dumur te mena samni tini rewa jab te yimmun shi tini she ba tarta tini jamba so tini she yo de nga so samman jamnim re chibare tini chiba indi te mi chama yo tini dumur mena samni tini ta dumur te mena te samni tini ti kapse tini so rang ga ta sam kare ngarang chibo dumur mena samba mayimba o mo chama la ta dumur me sona samni tini sem gunala Tendi te rewa zenandra, teni molum zenandra, o teni ndopa zenandra, te yungure zi nyamlin te zi shinkan zi na.
But for a person who has some experience of practice, when they experience suffering themselves, they realize that everyone who experiences suffering also hopes in a similar way. They also desire to be free from suffering. So in realizing that everyone really thinks in the same way about this, they are able to understand everyone, all beings, as equal. And so with this comes a prayer or a hope or a desire for everyone to be free from suffering, not just oneself, but everyone to be free from suffering.
Teni nga tsum sidang siya na teni pe na mochola nad naji yore nad nawi nikab na teni dumur yore samba ten rawo zi mokong kenchi kya yo mare te tsama hako ore zi ten rawo jimsen te mokong kenchi kya yo mare.
So regardless of who it is, when sickness takes place, it leads to suffering. And chizu teni di nibi kapsa teni di donga yungare teni. Everybody understands that sickness causes suffering. This is something that there is no one who doesn't understand this.
Teni zini teni kakari nipa chimache pe teni to kyabar chimborez.
However, the understanding of this is completely different when one has personal embodied experience of the suffering. This insight into the suffering is of a completely different nature than when we have had no experience of it or direct experience of it ourselves. The two insights or understandings are completely different.
Teni tendi indi teni dumur te yung jana pini ti dumur te la teni nga su semchin la teni nyangji yakbu teni yung tab gre.
So for this reason, when suffering does arise, we can use it to generate compassion for other beings.
O te indi teni nyangji teni di dumur ke teni nga su la nyangji ke la teni karma tongres.
So we can say then that suffering provides us encouragement, or it impels us to generate compassion.
Teni namgin inna teni semchin chama la teni nyarji yabo she gore so ne ngarang so lama namgyang te nga chola sung yores.
Usually, we talk about the need to be compassionate for all beings. Our lamas teach us this.
Teni pechan so tana pechan so thamba chimbo pechan so nala teni shevja yore semchin chama la nyarji go sung yores.
And in Mahayana texts such as this, they teach us also that we should have compassion for all beings.
Teni lama dan chu pecha chipo matsa pape na ngaso boba dazina na teni ama cho ina po chong chong la teni ta shirdang ko chimsang ka teni pume ama cho yang teni lab gare te sim po chong chong chola sim chen sama la nya ji gore sone teni namjin teni songores.
And besides lamas and Mahayana texts in Tibet, ordinary mothers in ordinary families always tell their children that they should have compassion for all beings.
Tindi rete yinna tini ta nga so la tini shikin tibna shikin chishudi kane yong gore zena soso nyamnyung ko thone o dumar soso rang nyam se nyong jana tani ti thone yong gore.
Even though all of these are the case, that which has the greatest impact or influence on us is when we have direct lived experience of suffering ourselves.
Teni suso teni dumur teni nyamse nyong jakba tela teni nga so ti thola samlo yakbo tang shi sona teni mseg na la teni ngerwa chimbo yong gore.
It's through direct lived experience of suffering like this, if we know how to think about it or approach it, that our lives can give rise to immense transformation.
Teni nyamlin shinken chigda nyamlin ma shinken chig mo nipo te teni ta ndrapo shini nika te teni zongkang ka nangla teni ndagnas.
If a practitioner and a non-practitioner, say, were to both be in jail,
teni ti kapsa teni ta zongkang ka nangla teni ta dumur teni ta chowa ka thola ena teni rangwa mepa ka thone ena te yopate khorang nika ndrapo res.
And both, let's say, both practitioners were equal in terms of their suffering, whether it be suffering from life in prison or the suffering attendant with the lack of freedom.
Teni rite ena nyamlin menken gamati teni ta mambo la teni khumtro teni langne teni ta khorang la jamba ga teni ndma so jikshi jak mushi jak zene teni khumtro ta ta na la tabaran ding yores.
Even though their conditions of suffering are equal, though, the non-practitioner gives rise to a lot of anger, thinking, oh, this person is doing this and doing that and doing this to me, and they live in a state of anger.
Tani jamba tso teni ta nyamli yongkhanti teni chumkang na la dingna teni khorang ka jala nyangji teni ding yores.
However, the other person, the practitioner, is able to live in prison, generating compassion for others. And this experience is one that many Tibetan lamas have had and practiced through. For example, Gachin Rinpoche, the Lama of your center, I really like him very much.
Teni ngarang gapo yoga gimsen kangre yensena shirtang ka teni te yondun jan kare yoda me tenga hako mezi shirtang atso boka nala lama chimbo mambo yore.
The reason that I like or admire him is not connected with other qualities that I don't know about in general. There are a lot of great high lamas in Tibet.
Teni ngarang teni simgar tepa chishudi tebya chishudi kangrezena teni khoranga zongkang kanane teni nyamlin chini yongba teres.
What moves me most about Gachin Rinpoche is his experience of practicing in prison.
Teni khoranga teni zongkang kanane teni te nyamlin teni chini yongwi teni lorji te ngama kom nyongse.
In the past, I had heard about Gachin Rinpoche's experience in prison and how he had practiced in this context.
And then
a few years ago, Gachin Rinpoche was in Taiwan. And I had a friend in Taiwan.
nge konsola sone tini kyorang sone gashiram boche tini kamdala sone korang la lorgi teso sarbo yakbo trini Teni te yigi thola teni phabjok jeni te tindi me te ngarang so chechok re teni Taiwan la yore kozola tindi la bayenze.
And what I said to these friends in Taiwan is that I asked them to go before Gachin Rinpoche and to record, to put down all of his personal history in this regard.
Te jimsen kangre rezina te Gachin Rinpoche ngarang ka lama na mareze.
But why did I do this? Why did I ask them to do this? Gachin Rinpoche isn't my personal Lama.
And
we are not the students, say, of the same Lama. The reason was that this compassion meditation that we are looking at in this text, this method for using suffering to generate compassion, this is something that is often talked about, it's often taught, but Gachin Rinpoche actually put this into practice. And because in writing down Gachin Rinpoche's experience, others would be able to read it, and in reading it, understand that this is how we should go about practicing. This was the reason that I asked my friends to go to Gachin Rinpoche and record his history. There are a lot of Tibetan lamas. However, in terms of those who are still alive, lamas like Gachin Rinpoche are only very few in number. So when one experiences suffering oneself or hardship, then we are able to generate a special kind of compassion. So between yesterday and today, we've repeated many times that suffering is good and that we should accept it. But this is not to say that suffering is good for everyone. For a person who is not a practitioner, then suffering has no benefit whatsoever. It's better for them not to have any suffering at all. However, even though it is preferable not to have suffering, it still will happen. And once it has occurred, then regardless of whether one is a practitioner or not, without preparation, then we've got no way of dealing with it. So it's in terms of actual practitioners that we talk about suffering, bringing benefit and having positive aspects. It's certainly not in respect of everyone. Even though suffering isn't good for everyone, everyone has to experience suffering. Suffering is part of our lives. It's a part or one element of our human lives.
때 탑시요 말이지. 때 저거 말인.
It's just not possible to say that you don't want an element that is an inevitable part of human life.
든지 인디 강터 가서 되니 다 데라 당린 마치나 탑이요 말이지.
However, if we don't accept it, then we haven't got any other way of dealing with it.
당린 마치나 갈때 탑시지요 나다 가서 되니 다 당보니 당린 마치나 그래서.
If there were another method besides accepting suffering, then we could be justified in not accepting suffering and doing something else.
이나 당린 등을 맨큰 그 무슨 그 가서 뭐 동시에 던시 담바요리 티나라 가서 왕샤쟁 그 망본도 야급 그 전전라 모티니 망본도 되니 잠볼랑 그 되니 식보 안 당오 되니 뭐 던진도 되니 잠볼랑 그 참마 공근 그 되니 까적자 망본도 이나 코솔라 등을 언덕 상로 땅다 등을 나만나서 코솔라 요레.
There is no single person who does not have suffering. Among the 7 billion people on the planet, there are many people who are powerful. There are presidents of nations. There are absolutely the most wealthy people, people of great fame. But do these people experience suffering? Yes, they do. They experience all different forms and kinds of suffering.
다든지 인디더니 등을 강타랑아서 되니 다 네 냠스뇽고 그래. 다 냠스뇽고 살디 되니 다 등을 때 야보 되니 때 게와다 장속다 되니슬란 로트블라 되니 삼로 땅나 되니 때 야보레지. 다 냠스뇽고 살디.
However, everyone does or necessarily experiences suffering. So once suffering has arisen, then if we can look upon it as good, as beneficial, as positive, then this is good.
되니 가서 응우보 찍라. 되니 응우보 찍라. 되니 따스르 mambo요. 그래서 배나 나른 거 가서 되니 세컨드 나른 건디 잠니 파르타와다 초소 흥원니 서타와니 카카리스. 자 통야된 자 뭐도 묶어나람 통화대 자 뭐도 와제.
In relation to any object, there are a variety of different perspectives. If we take this gold statue, for example, the way I look at it from behind, or the way I see it from behind, and the way you see it with your eyes looking from in front of the statue is completely different.
And
the perspective from looking at it from above and looking at it from below is different too.
And it's
the same in relation to any particular action. There will be many different ways of thinking about it.
삼로 땅서 찍으나라 파 참만 줘요. 그래서 삼로 땅서 찍으나라. 자오 찍 마토 삼로 만보 땅탐고요 말해서.
However, without cultivating practice, then everyone in the world is converging on one way of thinking. And this one way of thinking is that of not wanting suffering.
Karti dungur shong sona ngarang ke dungur to janji ke ngala shesong zini control la teres
Yanja sono nang kambola.
Karti tini dungur tini de yong sona ti kaps tini ngarang ke dungur to mo jambaz ke ngarang la shesong zini te control la teres.
If suffering does take place, then the way everyone responds is to say that this was done to me by someone else, and they get angry.
Besides
from this way of thinking, for the absolute vast majority of people, there is no alternative way of approaching the situation. And in continuing along this line of thinking, suffering only becomes greater and greater. And suffering, when it takes place in society, causes a great deal of trouble.
다 저소 삼로 땅서 잠바스 제고 더 손에 대송 거래스.
But it's at times like this that the Buddha advised that we need a different way of thinking.
강터는더 코랑 거스지그레지 세거스지그레지 레테 가소디니 그니 오니 야라 따요 반라 오레지 다 상지가 소나 다 교수님이 오니 야라 따 기뜻지 부마시 땅니다 드니 눈니다 점니다나 데 잠바 요레 데 따스르 잠바 요레 니니 야라 따나 다 가서 닌디 급 닌디 좀 아통 통고 말에 혈랑가 쇼 잠바 니다 따고레 소니 가서 상지 가서 딘디 송고 요레지 타바치모.
And what the Buddha taught us, and especially in the Mahayana teachings, is that in relation to this statue, there are many different perspectives. And rather than always looking at it from below and only seeing the base of the statue, we should also look at it from above, from in front, from behind, from different perspectives.
Teni samlo tansar jamba teni che jana teni dummerti teni soso ranglate pangayore.
And by adopting a different way of thinking, then the suffering is able to become of benefit to oneself.
Dummer gaso teni soso ranglate pamba yopa teni ngirndore.
The suffering can be transformed into a source of benefit for us.
Teni soso rangla pamba yopa masat teni nyarji kini teni mi janla yang teni pamba yongkan teni ngirkores.
And not just benefit to oneself, but through generating compassion brings benefit to others as well.
Teni tela teni dummer la teni shisok tsama na la teni nyokra meba o mo tsama la sham nyarji to kia teni yang teni ngirthap kores.
So it is possible that through suffering, society could be made completely free of trouble and full of compassion.
Teni dummerti teni transhok rendoyo ta dokshok rendoyo te teni ngacho dummer la teni gandhi ge teni tawa gandhi zangyo samlo gandhi tango samlo tansar la thgres.
As to whether suffering takes us in a positive or a negative direction, however, it depends on our view of suffering or the way we think about it.
Teni samlo tansarti teni chapar yobi jimsen de karesena tenga so nyamni yo mela thgres.
And the difference in the views there are on suffering hinge on the presence or lack of practice.
Teni yendi teni ngaso ti nyamlin te yo na teni ngaso te dummer de yagbore teni dummer la teni ngaso la 장쇼 teni yondan mangbo teni sasurang ge la top kare ni teni songo yores.
So it's said then that through practice, suffering is able to bring us much that is beneficial and good, bring much benefit to our minds.
Teni nyarjize ya ngaso te nangshu na la teni son devi teni nyarjize ya de kandisa ze yores na teni simchen tsama la teni dumur me sona samne korang ga simla teni ga rewa ta simla teni momba o ndopa teni tela ze gre simchen tamchu dumur me sona samne to sim ga na la teni ga rewa tela teni nyarjize ga yores.
In Buddhism, compassion is understood as the aspiration or the desire or the hope that all beings be free from suffering.
Teni yendi ngaso namjin te dumur te teni ta de par teni ngaso la teni pamba yongken yana soso urjel la teni nyarji teni ke thamken teni re gona teni namjin ngaso nyamlin tezi yo gongdo.
In order, though, for suffering to be something that is able to benefit us or something that is able to help us generate compassion, it's necessary for us to have some foundation in practice.
Teni namgin ngasola nyamlin tez mena teni dumur te thola yong kapse teni lamsang teni samlo tang gona te samlo tang tap kamarez ngaso ngama ga samlo tang lik tar shi yong gres.
However, without some foundation in practice, then when suffering does occur, all of a sudden we will, or on the spontaneous spur of the moment, we won't be able to approach it in these constructive ways. We will revert to our old way of thinking.
Teni ngaso teni to pena ngaso mi parwas yenna teni jitin de la teni ngaso te ngun zinser ta te tasr ta halipa slabuz teni shege yoreze te le lauz ko thoni samlo tanga yoreze.
For an ordinary person, their way of looking at the world or understanding the world is extremely simplistic.
Pevjana ngaso mukatana teni jitin de teni tan de jawo ngaso tata teni thongdewa ro de jure yenge yore mukatin jin thongge yore re te yenna te ngaso teni jitin de donggo thola teni zawani mareze.
For example, when we look with our two eyes at the world around us, it appears to be just the way it is. However, the true nature of the world, in fact, isn't just as it appears to our two eyes.
Then Rapozuke Nangasu Deva Yena Yakboyan, some Deva Narala Yonaga, Yakboyan, some Dumuriana, Dukpuri, Nara Mergo Samni, Tendisam, Natsu Munzen, the Tindijeta, Yena, Teni Tonga Tola, Tendi Yambingi Payo Manduzi.
So it is with happiness too. We think that happiness is good and I want it. Suffering is bad and I don't want it. However, in actual fact, it's not necessarily this way.
Then Nyaji Ziade, Natsu Mushikata, Simga Nalata, Namton Ramada, Mambo Yongere, Samlo Ramada, Mambo Yongere. Di Nani, Ha Lipatini, Rentang Yosati Rezi.
As for compassion, well, we as humans have many, many different thoughts of many different kinds. Compassion is the most valuable kind of thought among them all.
Teni mi janla teni nyarji yo chati mi janla phantok halipa chimbo yores.
And once one has compassion for others, then one one is able to benefit others.
Teni pena ngacho bo gangjeng gatini ta tamba la tini ha lepa gatini kwadran chimbo yengkhang gatini yagar ga panchada george adasha zeasi yore ta checho chama gatini ha ko yu jires.
In a very a teacher, a great teacher in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, who the teacher holds in a great debt of gratitude is Atisha. I'm sure that everyone has heard of him.
Teni korang la teni loma mambu yore, tinani loma tsu te teni rumtumba zegres.
Atisha had many students. His main student, however, was Dromdumba.
Teni kapchigla teni George korang teni shak te myungandus.
Chisi?
Lakpa nagandus.
Oh. One day, Atisha's hand hurt a little bit.
Teni shak nyongi kapsi teni George teni rumtumba la ta korang ka shak te myungandus nagandus teni korang ka puz jabrok jisone teni sondus.
And Atisha said to his student Dromdumba, "Oh, my hand is hurting. Can you blow on it a little?"
Teni Dromdumba te teni George korang ka teni lobmares.
But Dromdumba was the disciple of Atisha.
Teni tindi yindi teni Dromdumba ka zina te ngarang ka teni keka teni te shakla puz jamna te pantokchi yoki marisone teni sonyores.
And what Dromdumba said was, "Me blowing on your hand probably has no benefit whatsoever."
Teni George ka sone pantok leo teni kyorang ka pujabda pantok yore pantok yopi gimtsan kaare zina kyorang samba zambo yore te ti pantok kore sonyores.
And Atisha said to him, "Of course you blowing on my hand has benefit. The reason for this is that you are a person of altruistic mind, so you blowing on my hand will be of benefit."
Teni shirtang Dromdumba ta shirtang teni pe haliba ka teni tokbam thombo teni reze.
Dromdumba was, in fact, a practitioner of high realization.
Aso bo ka sharna teni phakpa sharez ka truain teni songres.
In Tibet, we say that he was the emanation of Chenresig.
다 때마이나 가서 싫던 거 뭐지 나제 가서 미끼마 된지지 나 그런 거 길라더니 샴녀지 약보 용큰 거 뭐 있나 이 그런 거미 멍볼라 판토거리.
But not just someone of his stature, any ordinary person, so long as they have given rise to compassion in their mind, is able to be of great benefit to others.
어떠니 대당라보 어떠니 샴녀지 때 소소 셈거나라 끼위 값스 때 소소 리당 셈니까 라더니 대화 어떠니 대화당 깨봐 근데 자침보 용거레스.
In this way, when one gives rise or arouses compassion in one's own mind, one's physical body and one's mind experience great happiness.
Tini tinji inding aso shamnyang jezeate takpa chimbo nala tini ha lepa tini rentang zhard me panjawo tinji tsire tolang tinji reze.
So in the Tibetan tradition, loving kindness and compassion are regarded as extremely valuable, priceless even.
Tini ten jawi tini shamna nyarjete tini nyamlin te ziyong kanzigena tini ngatsu susu tola dungmur yongwi kapse ti dungmur te la tenne tini yar jachimbo yar perro reze nyap shamnyangji.
So for this kind of loving kindness and compassion, once we have some foundation in practice, then when suffering takes place, we are able to amplify this loving kindness and compassion greatly.
Teni pena ngatsu teni sturging teni janka tsoma teni depser ti wandu shina. Teni country rezena teni tsoma ga nangla ngatsu zaya ga teni tsoma ga nangla teni chapkhang ga nangla yopi lutte te lukuyores.
With the traditional way of planting vegetables or planting fields, human fertilizer would be taken from toilets and then scattered or spread on the fields.
Teni ti chapkhang ga nangla yopi lutte tarta ngatsu teni zengir ka teni lunjamata mambu zo yore te tsamale khorang gagres.
This natural human fertilizer compared to the chemical kinds of fertilizers that we have these days is much better.
Teni chapkhang ga nangla yopi lutti teni ngatsu lotok yachimbo cheatang teni janka ga sala teni nopa mepa teni zres.
The human fertilizer that comes from toilets has the capacity to make crops grow big and also not cause any harm to the earth.
Teni sanji chumdende ga teni takpa chimbo nangla teni songwa rese ngatsu nyomong bate lut njapo reso ni teni songwa rese nyomong bate lut njapo reso.
And the Buddha said in the Mahayana teachings that our afflictions are just like fertilizer.
Teni kandi nyomong bate lut njapo kandi rese na teni lut janka nangla teni lugna teni lotok peya po teni kega rese karti lut mena ngatsu saga nangla teni lotok tabna lotok ti yakpo teni ketap ka ma rese.
And the reason that he said this was that fertilizer has the ability to make our crops grow abundantly. Without fertilizer, then even if we planted the crops, they wouldn't come to anything.
Teni yendi teni ngaso teni dumur yenna perna teni dumur yenna teni nyomong baga teni shokchigre ta li sem ko nyomong ba de mare ta yenna sem ko nyomong ba tena yore ta teni nyokta ze gogmand dumur yenna teni ta ngaso teni nyomong ba re te yendi teni ti la teni ta ngaso teni de gewa otoso tamje po lotok lalla teni lotok kiwa ndawo shini teni dumur la teni ngaso nyamlin andi shamdang nyarji toso yaram perium goreze.
So suffering itself is a form of affliction, but through suffering we are able to gain much that is positive, like great crops. Through suffering we are able to generate loving kindness and compassion.
Teni chapkhang nang lat partana tini tsokba tini yoreta yenang lotok na ta lotok gona tini korang met morongwa tini jes.
So even though human fertilizer from the bathroom is rather dirty in terms of making crops grow well, it is something that is indispensable.
Then rawo tini dumur yenna tini dumur korang shulogni partana tini ngaso samaga tini mundopa tangdelen mundopa o tindi jesi yenna tini dumur la tini shamdang nyarje ta gewa mambo ya compare rore.
And it's the same with suffering too. Even though looking at it superficially, suffering is something that no one willingly wants to take on. Through suffering, it is possible for us to generate much that is positive, including compassion and so forth. However, within all this is a fundamental point.
And
this is that in ordinary circumstances, we need to understand the proper way of thinking about it. And need some amount of actual practice, experience in relation to suffering. If we have both of these things, then when suffering arises, immediately we will be able to advance our loving kindness and compassion. So in thinking about this way, if when suffering does take place, we don't regard it as bad. Even though the feeling may be unpleasant, we appreciate that through this suffering, we are able to improve ourselves and progress in our practice, and on this basis, accept the suffering.
Ta tindi tini yarji njowa tini shebmal guwari ti mayin na nga so pe na tini mi jan gatola dumur yongya ti pe na mukun thongwa dawo longin yin na re lorji yin na ti so mukun thongwa ta yang na tini nawa gowa tindi yong na te so ya nga su shamnya ji yarji wala phanto yore.
So it's not just when suffering actually takes place on our person that we are able to advance our compassion, but also when we observe suffering in other people, when we see suffering with our own eyes, even if we see suffering in movies, etc. Also when we hear with our ears others suffering, these are also ways or opportunities to advance our compassion.
배는 탑주 되니 망측 야즈나 쉐신 어떤지 그 착망보 제로 산다고 쉐신즈나 거가 쉐신 되니 착 못삿 착자르 지르게 어떤지 그 되니 저 롱니니 나래 뜻소 거라테 나좀 통이 값이 하나 심진 쪽착 던조 되니 소진다고 되니 뜻소라 통이 값은 나좀 미망보고 되니 딱
When we watch films that are extremely bloody and murderous, violent, or perhaps see animals behaving violently, many of us don't dare to look at the images on the screen. Even though we may fear the images, as practitioners, we need to look at these images. Covering our eyes so as not to see what is taking place has no benefit at all. These things are in reality taking place, and not looking at them is of no benefit. But in looking with our eyes, we need to think in a particular way. the way that we need to think is in accordance with the ways of practice in the Mahayana tradition.
어디 상로티 타나 테니 가츠질라 샴다 냐르제다 참마 림베 용거레스.
And if we're able to think in this way, then gradually, step by step, our loving kindness and our compassion will increase.
어디니 티 당가 저것들이 등물라 테니 다 따서 득바티레스.
So what we've just covered now is point 6 in terms of how to look upon suffering.
테니 덤바티 테니 타마데레스 타마티.
So we've now reached point number 7, the last one, that is the letter G on page 11.
테니 타마티 테니 다위 르장치 바지 테니 페나 수수고 톨라테니 등을 용위 값스 당 나랑라 등을들이 용나요 나랑 그때니 다 당린 그것이 탑거리 옛날에니 미 망보 테니 더 당린 시 탑거 말이 테니 미 망보 미 잔솔라테니 등을 메나삼 당 나랑라 요나요 테니 테 겸문도 당 나랑라 요나 작은도 미 잔라 등을 메나삼도 테니 라오텔라 다위 장치제 그래 테니 테 등을라 테니 테 곰거레스.
So this last point is using suffering to cherish others more than oneself. And here we think when suffering takes place, we think, well, I can accept this suffering. I'm able to deal with it. But many people are not able to. And so we give rise to the wish that they not have to undergo this suffering. Even though we ourselves may be okay, we may be able to deal with it, it's not necessarily that way for others. And so this wish then is what we, or perspective is what we refer to as cherishing others more than ourselves.
Teni yang teni samnu tongser jambasiti kangrezena teni pena tari ngarang teni tan nat yenandra dengur kangyonandra ngarang teni dengur mambo yongo yimseng kangrezena ngarang rang teni rang chipr zong semchin jan teni chipr ma zong o ngarang de karchimbo yembab zong ti mo jambatso karchongshong yembar zong ne teni ga tawa shinsholo batela teni mergewa mambo sak tela teni da ngarang tari teni dumur yonga ga jimsen te tere samgo rez.
Or an alternative way of thinking here would be when sickness or other kinds of suffering befall oneself, to think that the reason this is taking place is because of our habit of self-cherishing, of regarding oneself as important and not cherishing others, not regarding them as important. And because of this incorrect view, we have in the past accumulated a lot of, or committed a great deal of unvirtuous actions, and this has led to our suffering. So this is an alternative way of thinking.
Tani ta panchuni ngarang rang teni ta teni taru mentni teni ngarang rang de karchimbo yen teni samna ngarang dumur mentni yongore teni yendi ta panchuni teni ngarang simchin jan namla teni karchinda jan nam teni chigo und jan mo jan namla gargo und ngarang rangla teni ta tindiga karchin teni znyang mendu ngarang rang karchin zona teni dumur samateli yongore karting ngarang rang kar chongchong rawo shi mo jamba cho kar chimbo shi na tela tini dewa yongore teni yendi ti ta panchuni ngarang gatini ta dawi janchi gomgo und sambi teni te samlo te tang shina te soso dumur thola yong kapse teni samlo tang thub gare.
So we need to resolve that from here on in. If we continue to cherish oneself as we have done in the past, then our suffering will only continue. So because of this, from now onwards, we will no longer regard ourselves as so important and cherish ourselves. We will begin from this point onwards to cherish others and regard them as important. Failing to do this will only lead to more suffering, whereas cherishing others and regarding them as important will lead to happiness. So we need to meditate on this way of thinking, and if we are able to familiarize ourselves with it somewhat, then when we encounter encounter suffering, we will be able to think in this way of cherishing others more than ourselves.
Then ngacho tini samlo tansar te kandi rezena ngacho mi chama ga samlo tansar te kandi rezena tini yakpo tang demo tang deshke taso chama gang yona yakpo chama ngarang rang go samni te sam go yores.
The way that everyone thinks is that all that is good, happy, pleasant, I need to have, I want to have. This is how everyone thinks.
Ta pe jana ngacho tini te khamba shik nangla tini mo chitan ban ra wo tini zi yona tini ti nani ta mo chu tini ta yana sem go tola dungur yana libo go tola dungur tini yong go ndu o ti yong go ndu ta kyoso mo chu nani sila tini yong re sila yong ji yen tini zena tini mo changma ga zena da ngarang la tini dungur mo go ngarang la yong ji men ngarang yona mendo tini ze gre.
Let's just say that in one house there were 10 people, and of these 10 people, one person had to undergo suffering, whether of a physical or a psychological kind. Well, if the 10 people were asked, who of you is going to step up to this, everyone would say, not me, I don't want that suffering.
Tindi indi tini taga ta nga so samlo to tindi rezi namgin tini ta moschi la tini dungmur yong ko na mo jibo di sama nga dungmur te yong go me ngarang dungmur mendo zini tindi zenken zama to nga dungmur te yong na ga ndu ta mo jamba gbo de la dungmur me na ta ngarang chibo dungmur yong na te kyo mendo tindi samlo yo mare.
So this is the way that everyone habitually thinks. If there is one person who has to take the suffering, then everybody wishes that it not be themselves. There is no one who says, well, yes, okay, I'll take it, it's fine, I don't mind if the others don't have it, I'll take it on. This way of thinking doesn't happen. There's a story from Tibet. This story is related to history of the past. In Tibet, there were boats fashioned from yak skin that were used to cross big rivers. And in Tibetan areas, in Tibet, there are many great rivers such as the Yangtze and other big rivers. Everyone knows about this. Tini zhido so tamji po tam shirtang nga so mansuk ko tini ti pesho tanga zhido so sama tini tabde po tini ayak ko ga zo tini tabde po indi tini te denjak halipa yo maris. Because these boats that ordinary people used to cross the river were just very crudely constructed, they weren't very safe. Tini kapchik tini makashi tini zhigo nala tini ndgne ayak ko ga zhigo nala tini ndgne rodi tini chi tini chichenbu tini kila tini thong kaps tini zhigo kalwa ga zini ta nga so zhigo nala mo mang chen do. One day when everyone was sitting inside such a boat, they got to the middle of the river, and the person who was steering the boat, the oarsman, said to everyone, "We have too many people in the boat." And he said to them, "Look, the boat's too heavy, it's going to sink. If there's anyone among you who knows how to swim, then please jump out and swim." But there wasn't anyone among the passengers who knew how to swim. Yana kyocho nala te jing mostik tini chanala chip ta checher mashida shenro ore ta shina tapshi amare tandu zendu. The oarsman said to them, well, either I jump out of the boat and swim, I know how to swim, so I wouldn't die, or either one of you jumps into the water and swims. Of course, if you don't know how to swim, then you'll die, but we can't do anything about it.
Teni ta moschi ka zeni teni o ta mo jambanda so chama teni par chog parola teni tarsona ta de yakbond teni ngarang cheche shigme ta ina teni ta shina teni tapshimenduk zeni de korang chinang la teni jebarez.
Anyway, one of the passengers stood up and said, if everyone else reaches safely the other shore, then that's enough. I'll jump out of the boat, even though I don't know how to swim. I'll die. Never mind, I'll do it.
어떠니 뭐 잠바 상마 치파로라티 타르송데 뭐데 시송어레스.
And the other passengers all reached the other shore, but the person who jumped out died.
드니 나초 남긴 소소랑 거랑라티 드와데 고고레스 다 나랑 드니 다오즈라 특소나 드니 나랑 치나라 쳄사레다 간디시사레 삼니 소소랑라 드와데 고고요레스.
We need to often put this kind of question to ourselves. What would we do in such a circumstance? What would we do if there was such a situation where someone had to jump out of the boat? What would you do?
나서 상마가지나 나 다른 저거면 나 다른 팀랑라 레카만볼이지요 나도 집지요 말이 되는지 그랬어.
치즈 그저 김나는 레카만볼.
레카만볼 하요 한도事情做.
네?
나 친랑라 집 그러면 나랑
yeah. Okay. What everyone would say is, well, I wouldn't jump out of the boat because I've got so much to do. There's still so much of my home I've got to do, so much work.
야, 다 딘디나 나초 딘디 랄린라 딘디 탑고 말이다. 옛날 샘거 돌아갈래 갈래 종들지 탑다고 그래서.
So even though we might not be able to put it into or practice, it's important for us to slowly train at the level of our minds.
더니 땡아서 냐르지야 보면 비점선지레스.
Our lack of willingness in this situation is due to a lack of compassion.
드네 가서 남긴 때니다가 나랑 라냐지 요원라고 딘디 삼거요래다. 옛날 딘디 난가 문에 전에 태우나 딘디 문에 냐지 요다메 때니 하고용 그래서.
Even though we might ordinarily think that we are persons with compassion, when a situation like this really arises, then we truly understand whether we have compassion or not.
드니 때 샘거돌라 때지 용들시네 때지 냠림시 탐나 때깔레깔레 무스에나 딘디 냐지 야포치 탐거리 다고 야지제야테 다 무잠바초 타르소나 때가운데다 나랑시소나
However, through practicing well and training properly, it's possible for anyone to give rise or to cultivate compassion, to strongly cultivate a cherishing of others more than themselves, a willingness to see others saved. And allow oneself to die. This is something that everyone can achieve through training in compassion.
Teni dungmer teso teni soso teni tola yongi kapsa teni chorwa teni dungmer ko chorwa chembo teni yongi kapsa teni tendi ko tola teni samlo teni tangna teni namgin le o teni halipa teni niba chembo yores.
So when suffering comes upon oneself, and particularly when there's a very strong feeling of suffering, then the capacity to generate this quality of thought or experience is more powerful than in ordinary circumstances.
Teni yendi ngaso teni dagli janchi ba zewi teni samlo te ngaso nruwa mir ko teni samlo yongzuk na ne teni chi ralap chi shu derez.
Among all of human thought and all ideas of humanity, that of cherishing others more than oneself is the most great and mighty.
Tendi yendi tendi samlo teni lap chimbo tini samlo rintang na damba teyang tini dumur la tini teni sosorang ka dumur la teni tini ke thab gareze ke gareze.
And this mighty thought, this valuable thought, is one that we are able to give rise to and cultivate through the experience of suffering.
Ta tendi ngi tini nga so samlo jibko tang di tini ta dumur te la yang ta sikta tendi dupu mundu te na ngarang rang nyamlin te chu shi ni tini samlo te chu tang shina dumur ndi te ngarang la tini ta phamba mambo tini te drip ko ndu samni te tendi samdi tini nga chu dumur te la yinda manda nga dumur mo go dumur te dupore samba go samlo te tini mepa reyong gres.
So if we are able to think very carefully in this kind of way, then we will come around to appreciating that suffering is not completely bad, that if we are able to look upon it in a certain way and to practice with it, then suffering is capable of bringing us many, many benefits. And in recognizing this, then the notion or the idea that suffering is bad and we shouldn't have it can be destroyed.
Tate nga chu tari dumur la tini yondan tawazin dina la tini den goni tini sha jangdu tini te mai na so sorang ndang jamna tini dumur te nga chu samlo yak potong shina dumur la tini nga chu landi dumbo ti machat par tarong dumur nga chu la yang phamba mangbu yang tini yungore.
So we've just covered now 7 positive qualities associated with suffering. However, if you think about it yourselves, and please do think about it yourselves, you'll discover that the positive qualities of suffering are not confined to these 7 only. There are many, many positive qualities. So Kambo is now going to give a reading transmission. The transmission is for Kambo is going to continue reading the next verse. Suffering took us to covered what we had just learnt, the 7 positive qualities of suffering, and finished at the bottom of the first paragraph on page 13. So among all of this is one thing that we need to most understand.
Ta dumur titi dumur shona yang tini dupu mare samni tini ta sambat tini ta jimsun taso jimsun dung goni nga tsuti shat sar songze.
So of the content that we've just covered, the main content was 7 different reasons why we can regard suffering as not bad.
Tani tanga so shigupak garche chishu chiti kangrezina shetanga so tini dumurte ta yondan tendi yore sambat samzku ndruk yo mares.
But of most importance for us to grasp is that it's not sufficient just to know in theory that suffering has these various different positive qualities.
Ta kang gogrezina pena nat nawanda so la nat nawanda tindi zalam chonna teni samlo tane ta nachi tini dumur te la tene teni ta ngarang tari tini gewa drip chokore nyarje gom chokore teni dagwe jangchi re so chama tini gibjur ta namjin tini ngarang ga tini drip mathapat tini ga tini gewa tini drip thap gore ta korku yagbo ta di shong song samni tini natela tini gawa yo go ndus gapsda yo go ndus.
what we do need to do is, when we say experience the pain of sickness, recognize that through this suffering it is possible for us to do positive action, generate compassion, cherish others more than ourselves. In sum, we need to recognize this suffering as an opportunity for spiritual practice, an opportunity for cultivating virtue, one that we don't have in ordinary circumstances. And on this basis, develop an appreciation or a liking, a welcoming of suffering.
Teni 대당 라오시니 teni ta 등을 강당 소소라 용나 다 다리 약보 숑숑 teni 등을들라 teni 다 나랑가 teni 용들 약보 시 초건도 teni 인디 등을들라 teni 다 나랑 열지 teni 로레 나랑 열지 약보 용거레 삼네 teni 가르공도 셈라 가와요 공도세.
And in the same way, when any kind of suffering comes upon us, we should think, oh, good, through this suffering, I can train, I can practice, and in so doing, improve myself. And in thinking in this way, give rise to liking for suffering.
Tani nga tso tani mi tani te samlo zia te pe kemse te samlo tansar chong chong zi yabjir mabjir shina tani ti nga tso samlo kapshok la tani ngerwa chimbo tong ndoze.
So it's very strange how even a small kind of thought or a small way of thinking is possible of changing our direction completely.
Perna nam zhe tani shokpa ge tola tani nam zhe tani shokpa la tani jablo la tani te tani yar chakjeta mar tani doya tani te zindwa tada yana nam zhe jigma ge tola tani tani parkour circuit te shejindu te ni la tani nam zhe yanro manro ta pandro sdo kapshok zo de di chonjun je ge yo re ji changma go re.
It's just like airplane wings. If the tip of the wing is slightly pointing up or pointing down, or the tail of the airplane, depending on what direction it moves in, this completely controls how the airplane flies, whether it goes left or right or up or down. This is something that everyone knows about.
강인나 등으로나 담보 셈거나라 되니 마키 바요니 되니 요비 갑데라 되니 든지 그 삼로탄에 삼로탄서 때 기르추시잖아 때 람성 되니 셈거나라 가와요니 다키온 거 먼저 삼니 되니 람성 가와 되니 용 탑거레.
And in the same way, when we say get sick and that feeling of unpleasantness or not liking the sickness starts to arise, if at this point we're just able to make a tiny little change in our way of thinking, then immediately we give rise to happiness. We feel it's okay, it's no problem, and a feeling of liking the sickness happens.
Teni tinji teni samlo tansra jamba te la nga so lojong che go reze nga so ta namgin mi chama go samlo tansra te nga so lojong che go mar chama teni sam go yore so ndi samlo tansra jamba z ko tola te zang jamni lojong che na teni ti samlo tansra te nga so te sem ga na la ngirwa chim bo tong tab gre.
So we really need to study these different or other alternative ways of thinking. We don't need to study the way of thinking that is how everyone else thinks, how everyone normally thinks. What we do need to turn our attention to is different ways of thinking. And it's through familiarizing ourselves with these or it's these ways of thinking that are able to exert significant change in our lives.
Teni semnala teni gawate yung charti sem ganala teni gawate yung charti teni ti gawate la teni maso teni lipo tola pena nad nawanda zina lipo tola yopi teni chorwate yang timar non ro ndozi timar ngu non bada o teni shekrezi ti semna gawati lipo toko chorwate mar chechong lan ro re.
And once we give rise to a feeling of liking or happiness in our mind, then this feeling is able to affect our physical sensation of suffering and actually have the effect of suppressing or reducing the physical suffering.
teni perna lipo thola teni nat navi kapsa teni semnang la teni dengur sone ta ngarang ka semde teni ngarang ka nat teni dugpo samne tendi mambo samna teni lipo ko thoko nat je dik do yores.
If when we experience physical pain or suffering, our mind also thinks, oh, I'm suffering, oh, how bad, then our physical suffering only becomes greater.
Tendi indi ngaso te kapsa samlo te kayang bon rawo shi teni dengur teni tan dalak teni ngarang yakpo yung gore sambi gawa te yotsati titi semnang la yopi dengur ta te me lenro ta lipo dengur yang teni chechong gore ta lipo dengur tsawa ne me gore zena tsawa ne me thap kumar ta yena mar chechong yore.
If at this point we're able to think in a more open or open-minded way that this suffering is actually good for me and to like the suffering, then it is actually possible for us to make our mental suffering disappear. And the disappearance of our mental suffering has the effect of reducing our physical suffering, perhaps not making it disappear completely, but certainly diminishing it.
Tati indi ndi kapsa tini ngasola goyang ngomatak kang goyorezina tini dungurla gawi samba o tate goyores.
At times like this, what we need the most is a liking of suffering.
Tini dungurla gawi samba tak kandi goni yong goyorezina tari ngaso kongla tini dungurla yondan diri yoreze tini shok dun gutoni shasonga tetso la samlo tangona o ta yondan diri mambo yoti.
So where do we get this liking of suffering from? Well, as we covered already, we have the 7 positive qualities associated with suffering. And by thinking about these different positive qualities, we can appreciate that, well, if there are so many qualities associated with suffering, then it's no problem if suffering happens, and indeed one likes suffering, is able to like suffering, give rise to the thought of liking suffering.
Dewa or tendi nyamlin ngaso kongla shede ki nyamlin de yapo zedini shi thabar tene kom shoksum go shinji lao samne tendi ga tene sondip she go ndzi tambu kor la kapsa.
So we need to meditate in this way or on these thoughts, and in general make prayers to the 3 objects of refuge, that we may be able to transform our suffering into and make a prayer that we are able to transform our suffering effectively into our path of practice.
Tani nyamling ka tola tini ngaso yarje te tsishon tsarwi jini tani sorwa depi kapsa yang sor dep kaka she go ndozi te kapsa tini ta kom shoksum la tani ta ngarang la tini dumur te tsa thong shokse tani ta ngarang la kom shoksum yin nandra tini soso chushkyong yin nandra tiso korte la o ta ngarang la dumur te tsa thong shokse tani dumur te la tini yongdur shi tapkandak tani ngarang dumur te tsa yung go zini tani ga tini
And after we have achieved some progress or ability in relation to our practice, then we need to make a different kind of prayer. We need to pray to the 3 jewels or to our Dharma protector to please send us a bit of suffering. Please send me a bit of suffering. Through suffering, I can do training. And so at this point, once we have a little bit of progress in our practice, we make this different kind of prayer.
Tendi goni nyamlin she gore tendi gombi kapsi na tini tambo kapsa tanga so teza tin samland kinda o tendi she go nda ta samla nima kashi tin du khumna pe yangbore karte ma khumna nga chu nima re la tini chichu chingdawo tini zik nangla tini mar gomar gyamni tini soso chipo ndigni tini ndaso tonla samni semgnala yang jongdrshe gore.
At the beginning of our practice, it is preferable to practice or to meditate in seclusion. A few days would be best, but if we're not able to do this, then setting aside an hour each day where we close the door and sit down by ourselves and contemplate in this way is very good.
Te nga so nyamlin kang ina te rezi tangbo nga so te nyamlin to shipi kapsa jongzu teni matang par rewa mepashi mamta ina nga so chisu kashi gana la teni matang rewa mepashi ne go jamni teni gumni teni rishi go re ma to pata tangbo ni teni jongdar mena nga so nyamlin yakpo jilla kitap ko mandu.
It's actually the same in relation to any kind of practice. In the initial stages, we should try to separate ourselves from others, even if it's only for a few hours, to go into a space with a closed door and meditate by ourselves. If we don't practice in this way to begin with, then it isn't possible for us to train our minds or habituate our minds to these things.
Tani perna tini lister ba tini tini ta jarshi tola tini jong jamdir kana la jinken ka tini lister ba tini yena tambo korang ka tini ta yen rambo shila tini ta tini jongdir tini mambo tini shegondo wazi te tang rawore.
It's the same just with an athlete in the international arena. Such an athlete needs to train for a very long time.
Tani tambo jongdar chini tani shitsabi jini tani tazo tani jamdar kana la jigna jongdar yakpo shini jamdar kana la jigna tani korang ka ser ka takmalin tap ko yore.
It's only after training for a long period of time that the athlete actually enters into a competition, takes part in a competition, and is able to win a gold medal. However, if the athlete just takes part in a competition with no training whatsoever, then they won't obtain any result.
Ta maran samra poda yana tini shini go mar jam ni chipo tini gom guman korang soa na la drone gom gyen zeni tini zenka mambo ndugzi.
These days there are a lot of people who say or don't wish to practice in a retreat or secluded situation with a closed door. They say, I'm going to meditate in everyday life.
Te jondr machina tambu ni soa na la drone tini korang te
however, without some kind of prior training, then it just doesn't work to go straight into everyday life and to think one can practice. It's the same with writing letters or writing calligraphy. We have to practice first for a long time before we're able to write beautifully. If I say, well, I'm not going to practice at all, it's a waste of time, and just go and scribble out some letters, they won't be very nice. It's like this.
Teni tarong chik dogzi te bena tiri nga so ndi muk chik teni chakta zongken chik teni chakta zi teni zon dogzi chakta muksir chakta zon dogzi teni chakta di kanga zi na ta nga so namgin nga so chakta cherna teni ayef shoklan rogona dendri korgo dogzi oya teni yon shoklan rogona ta dendri korgo rewa zi namgini na.
So there was a person who designed a special bike. It was different to ordinary bikes. Ordinary bikes, when we want to turn right, we turn the handlebar right. And when we want to turn left, we turn the handlebar left.
Teni koranga chakta gandhi zundu zena teni ndshoglan gona ndji kor gonken tin ndshoglan gona ndshog tedi kor gonken tedi sakta zondig ze korang.
But the bike that he made was one where you had to turn in the opposite direction than the one you wanted to go. So if you wanted to turn left, you had to turn right and vice versa.
Te ripi zonglu ke tone le lapo nga so karma se kana la shin ro on the shon ro ndrichi the shon ro kon ndrichi ta lamsang ha ko gres.
Of course, in theory, this is completely easy to understand. Within 1 minute, we get that if you want to go left, you turn right, and so forth. However, no one has actual practice of this. And so, because no one had any practice, they would get on the bike and after a few meters would fall off. Has anyone seen a bike like this? If anyone has, please raise your hand. Have you ridden a bike like this before?
I have tried a semi-truck, 18-wheeler. And when you're backing up, not to turn to the opposite side, And the first time you try to drive an 18-wheeler, a semi, you make my mistake, you have to practice, take a school, then you learn how to back up wherever you want. So it's not a bike, but it's similar.
Then ko the jakta dendra was then shwe ma myong in yong ko de long ko kya chebu jik then dang yong then din rabu re then pap then shit then pa then khod good na then yang then da nyo ru mambo then go re rabu re se
oh yeah tate then this jakta di thoni then nga so ha ko re then 당보 거랑 그 심시시한테 시그레지 때 미시지 요마래 다 때 디톨라 디 미시야 데 리빈 디 뇽다지지 요마 람상 하콘로 그래다 있나 거랑 그꿈 데 요마래 때 마군비 짐슨지 티 샤타데 존인 로고난 로탑금도 샤타 약부 존신게 참아 롱롱도.
So it's this way with this bike. Even though we understand fully in theory how it works, there's absolutely nothing that we don't understand about how it should be steered. Because no one has any familiarity with actually riding it in practice, then even good cyclists riding this kind of bicycle would fall off.
어디인디 되니 가서 인담만다 당보 금고래 약본 금고래 마도 금마금나 가서
So that's why it's very important that in the beginning we meditate properly, we familiarize ourselves properly. It's only then that we're actually able to implement it in practice.
냠린다 또 mambo 냠린지나 되니 또 소소람 드브 약 보통 그 만드기 삼반다고 된디 용거래 mambo라 또 정말 되니 꿈 마트피 김선지.
There are many people who say that in practice, with their practice, they've not seen good results and so forth. And the reason for this is that they have not familiarized themselves properly. So if our situation or circumstances are good and we have lots of time, then it is certainly favorable to practice, to meditate for a long time. However, if we don't have these circumstances, then it's fine for us to set aside 1 hour a day or something like this to meditate.
다른 거 가지고 차트 때